Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Spring It On special presentation that we have put together especially for admins and developers about what we think is cool in Spring 17. We've got a rock star lineup today of experts. I'm Jillian Bruce. New and learn how to say my own name. And I'm an admin evangelist here at Salesforce, and I'm joined by Leanne Templeman and Christoph Konrads. I think we've got an admin evangelist, developer evangelist, and they've really put together some amazing demos that are going to help you really do some cool stuff with Spring 17. As we get before every presentation is our forward-looking statement, so please make purchasing decisions based on currently available features and functionality. Shouldn't be a problem today because we're talking about Spring 17, which we all already have. We also want to make sure you connect with us and get social. So we have developer channels, we have admin channels, we have Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all the things. So make sure you connect with us. We really love engaging. Ask us your questions and use that hashtag #SpringItOn to really talk about some of these features and maybe ask some questions about how you can best use them. We're going to go over some really exciting stuff in today's agenda. We're going to first talk about some features that are really going to make your end users excited, your end users are going to love using Salesforce with these new features coming out in Spring 17. We also then have a section all about how you can customize further with clicks. So admins, pay special attention to that section. But it's also important for developers to pay attention to that section too, because now with Spring 17, developers can do some really amazing customizations with development as well that then our admins can use to customize with clicks. So let's get into it. At the end, we'll have some resources. And if you have Q&A, use that hashtag #SpringItOn because we're going to be watching that for the next week or two or month to see what questions you have that pop up as you go through this presentation. First thing we want to remind everybody about is review those release notes. So there is so much information. We know that might be a little overwhelming, but we have HTML version of the release notes. You can look up all of the things that are pertinent to your org and definitely take a few minutes and check those out. Another great way to get the latest and greatest information about Spring is to join the Release Readiness and Feature Adoption group. So that is in our success.salesforce.com website, and you can collaborate not only with other admins and developers, but you can also share insights on best practices, ask questions, and really connect with the experts, all of us that are on the call today.
And Jillian, that's not just for Spring, right? That's for every single release. So if you feel like you're going to be all ramped on Spring and you've reviewed the release notes already, it's still a good time to join that group because leading up to every release, that's where all of the big timelines are posted also around getting your pre-release developer edition signed up, what the timeline is to get your sandboxes on pre-release. So make sure to join it now so you're ready for summer as well.
Yeah, and you can also, I mean, we have our product managers in there, so you can ask questions about
everything is there, all of the
sandbox instructions, all of that stuff is posted there. You don't want to miss it. So without any more preamble, we want to get into really some of this core content. So Leanne, we'd love to hear a little bit about some of these features that our users are going to love using in Salesforce.
Awesome. So I really want to preface this by asking, so Jillian, you've had users, you're an admin, do you, and Christoph as well, you've managed implementations, do you guys have a lot of users that are reading the release notes on their own and really always up to date on all the brand new features?
I have never heard of an end user that reads the release notes. Christoph, have you?
No, not at all. Not that I'm aware of.
So, and that's not to be tough on our end users. It's because for us, whether we're developers, whether we're admins, whether we're doing a lot of different cross-functional work in Salesforce, it's really important that we can guide our end users in the right direction around what are some features that we think they're going to like in the release. And also, if you're driving adoption, for example, if you're looking at turning on Lightning, it's great to know about some of the new features that are coming or that are available now in Lightning that really tie to maybe requests they've had or issues that they've had in the past, things that they've wanted to be able to do. So it's really great for us to get brushed up on the end user features, and that's what we're going to do right now. So a lot of the Spring 17 features for end users are really focused on their ability to curate their own experience in Salesforce, to make those kind of personal customizations with chatter streams. So that is a way to create a curated chatter list, similar to like a Twitter list a little bit, where you can select a number of different records across different objects for collection in a stream, and then tie into that stream when you want to get news on that topic. List view inline edit A lot of us have end users, and a lot of us love having those view inline edit abilities, and you can now do that in Lightning. I'm a big fan of doing that, especially when I'm setting up a lot of data. It's a really big efficiency gain. Kanban everywhere. So,
oh, I love Kanban everywhere.
And I love Kanban too, because Kanban was something that we started showing when we first rolled out Lightning on the opportunities, and it was that ability to have tiles on a board grouped by status, and you could have this visual interface, but you could also move those tiles around to update those deals. Well, now you can do Kanban on all of your custom objects. You can do Kanban, across Salesforce. So that's a huge gain, especially if you have users that are working really heavily in objects that are not opportunities, but want a way to interact with those records. And favorites, I love favorites.
Favorites, I think, is my favorite Spring 17 feature.
Yes, and favorites is a wonderful, again, so if you have users that maybe have a lot of Chrome bookmarks, or users that have, in Classic, really been using the customized navigation a lot to kind of add tabs to their own app navigation. And in Lightning now, they can quickly access all those tabs and details within those tabs using favorites. And enhanced search. So I know, we all use a lot of consumer-facing or websites and things like that. We're searching on Google, we're searching on Zappos, things. We want it to be smart to what we're
Someone's
looking
been
for.
doing some shopping.
Maybe a little bit. But enhanced search is really smart to what your users might be looking for based on how they use Salesforce. So we're going to dive into that. And without talking too much about it, I'd love to show you a quick demo.
Yes, we love demos. So, Leanne, you talked about a bunch of things that some of my favorite things that are happening in Spring 17, and I'm super excited to see what you've got for us.
Awesome. So, and this is a demo also that you can do for your end users as well when you're trying to kind of bring them up to speed, drive some adoption. We've got the demo click path for this actually posted on admin.salesforce.com.
Yeah, so I want to stress that. Make sure, this demo that we're doing right now that Leanne is showing, everyone who's watching, you can do this exact same demo yourself as well.
So we're here in our Astro's Adventures app. So we've got an adventure company, and we've built this great app for everyone who works marketing, adventure managers, instructors, everyone who works at Astro's Adventures to be able to manage their day. And so our users are starting in Lightning on this customized home screen that's assigned to them by profile. So we've got a nice big logo here so they know they're in the right place. We've got a App Exchange component here that's giving us a heat map of where all of our leads are for our marketing users. We've got some charts, and that's awesome. That gives them kind of everything they need in one place. Again, this is a customized page assigned by profile. But let's dive into Chatter. So Astros is using Chatter really heavily, and in Lightning, we've got a new Chatter home. And so the first thing I want to point out is on the left, we have a new option called Company Highlights. So we might be heavy Chatter users. We might be following a lot of relevant items on Chatter. Maybe I follow a lot of different records. But Company Highlights is really Einstein for Chatter. So when I click on Company Highlights, I'm going to immediately see posts that bubble up to the top that are trending, that are top posts, that are getting a lot of likes, getting a lot of attention. Maybe they're from people that have a lot of followers. So I'm actually not following Christine or the Mount Rainier Summit record, but because this is a popular post and it's been getting a lot of attention the short time it's been posted, it's going to automatically bubble up to the top. So this is great to kind of ensure you don't miss anything on Chatter. It's also great if you're onboarding new users, for example, and you want to really direct them to always check in with Company Highlights because they might not be following all of leadership yet, or they might not be following all of the kind of Chatterati at your organization.
It's a way for them to find the most important things to follow and the most important people to keep track of as well.
Exactly. Now, if we want to curate this a little bit more, I am following a lot of records, I am following a lot of people and groups, but let's say I want to get a stream that gives me, or a list that gives me a lot of information about everything that's going on in the Pacific Northwest. I'm very focused on the Pacific Northwest.
It might be your favorite area.
It might be my favorite area. I'm a Seattle native. So I'm going to create a brand new Chatter stream. So I see my streams area here, and I don't have any yet. So I'm going to click the plus sign, and we're going to call this Pacific Northwest News. So now that I've named it, I can include different records. And it defaults to account here, but I can select which type of object I want to find records in which to search. So I know that I have a group that's a Pacific Northwest group. There we go. I can add that because that's a very relevant group. But I also have, specific adventures that are coming up that take place in the Pacific Northwest.
So Leanne, that's a custom object, right?
This is a custom object.
So you can follow custom objects in your chatter feed, your chatter stream.
It helps better if I spell it correctly. There we go. So I've got some Mount Rainier adventures that I'd like to add as well. And so I can start to add those records across different objects and really consolidate them all in this one list. So I'm going to go ahead and save that stream. And this is individual to your users. So this is something that your individual users would create. As an admin, you wouldn't be creating this for other users. And they can always go ahead and edit and delete and make changes to it if maybe there's new records. And they can edit those streams and have up to 5 streams. So that's one great way for them to really curate their own experience. But we also mentioned our favorite feature of Kanban. So in Lightning Global Navigation, I do have the ability, if I want to go into my adventures, I do now have this little drop down that I always like to point out that shows me if I have any favorites, if I have any recent records, but I can also just go right into a list. For example, I can look at maybe all adventures or upcoming adventures and take a look at that list. And if I do have changes that I want to make, I can make that right from in here. So maybe we do think this may be a strenuous activity.
So that's that inline edit that you talked about, right?
Exactly. And you can also use your arrow keys and enter if you're making edits to a lot of records, which is really handy as well. So we've made some quick changes there, but now I want to view this in a visual interface. So I can edit from here, but I can also switch it to Kanban, and I can take a look at it across these tiles, the tiles view here. So I can say, okay, maybe this summit has been completed, I can move that over, I can drag and drop it, but if I want to look at it differently, because right now it is categorized by the status field, I can go into my list view controls and go into Kanban settings and see all of my options for how to view this. So I can group it by any of my pick list fields, which means if I have maybe, I want to look at by activity level, for example, I can make those changes and I can say, okay, here's everything by activity level, and I could also make those, drag and drop it across. Maybe I feel like this river trip is vigorous, and edit it in that way.
So you can create a Kanban view based on any pick list field that you define.
Yeah, your user can define it, and you can say, here's how I want to visualize this data. Now, the summary fields here, your option is the currency field. So if you have currency fields, that's how you can kind of summarize these. If you want to have that summary level to see what maybe some total dollar amounts, if you're looking at like maybe projects by stage, expected revenue, things like that.
And it's so cool that it updates real time just with the tiles. By moving the tile, you're changing the status on the record.
Right, and it's a great way, whether you're working with custom objects, maybe projects. I've used this a lot for different projects. Use Salesforce for content management, so use this to move it around the stages and visualize where we are with stages. It's a great tool for that. Now, if this is a list view that I love, maybe it's my favorite list view, users now have the option to start to make this curated list of favorites with this little star here that says add favorite. And when you've successfully added a favorite, you get a green little message there. Certain records in certain areas are not available to be favorited. It'll just be grayed out if you can't favorite it. But after I favorite it, if I want to maybe organize my favorites a little bit, I can always access them from right here, wherever I am in Salesforce. And I can edit those favorites as well if this is maybe a really important,
So every user can curate their own favorites.
Exactly. And so we can make these changes. Maybe this is like my favorite, so I'm going to move it up to the top. We can call it list of adventures. And if you're starting to have a lot of favorites, like I have a lot of records that I favorited in my Salesforce that I use at work, and so I can search within my favorites by just doing find favorite. And so that's a really handy tool as well. I know for me it's replaced a lot of like bookmarks and things like that, places that I was going back to find records.
And that's really useful because no matter where you log into Salesforce, you can access your favorites, where if it's bookmarks and you're in a different browser or a different machine, you may not have access to those bookmarks.
Exactly. So that's how we can kind of curate and keep track of and define our individual experience, but what if we're looking to find new records or find more information? So I mentioned that we've got enhanced smart search. So when I click into this search, I do see my most recently used items. So my MRUs have been kind of transported up here. But if I know that there's something I want to search for, and if I know that it's in a particular object, maybe if I know that I want to search for an adventure, I can start to type adventure. And one thing I really want to point out here, so when I type in adventure, I can either search the string adventure within all of Salesforce, typical to the search that you're used to using. It's smart, and it knows that I'm in the adventure tab, so based on where I'm in the navigation. So it's saying, do you want to search this string within the object that you're currently on? So if I was on the lead tab and I started typing adventures, it would say, do you want to search adventure and leads? Or I can say, I want to limit my search to adventures. So I can predefine what object I want to search. And notice that adventures is a custom object. So based on those, it's not just limited to the standard objects that you can do this with, it's any of those objects that you use most often in your Salesforce. And so once I type in adventures, I can predefine that I'd want to search for a rainier adventure. So it does give me some recommendations, but if we imagine that we had a really large amount of records in here, and to search across, if I just hit enter, then it automatically will search adventures across the adventure, or rainier across the adventure object. Now, if I kind of change my mind and I want to go back to like results and search across multiple objects, I can do that as well.
That's so cool. I mean, it's really a much easier kind of intuitive way to use search, the way that most of us use search in any other engine, right? I mean, I think that's a really cool quick win for users.
Yeah, it's a lot less clicks. It makes it easier for them to find the right information. And if you have things that you want them to be toggling back to very often, you can encourage them to favorite those items, make it easy for them to find. So it's a lot of kind of end user productivity gains around how is it to find information and to seek information.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So that's an amazing demo, Leanne. I think that was very, very useful. I am super excited about all the end user features, but it's not just about end user features, right? I mean, it's also about features that are going to make us more awesome as an admin. So we want to hear a little bit about those features that are going to make our jobs as admins even better, even more exciting. And let's talk about some of those features. So what are some of the things that are coming and that have come already? Yeah. Spring17 has hit. Spring it on.
Spring is here.
For admins.
Yeah, so there is a lot of increased ability for admins to create a really customized experience for their users in Lightning in Spring17. A few features that I am really most excited about the implications of are listed here. This is definitely not exhaustive. There's a lot in this release. But the Lightning console apps, so if you've used console apps, if you're a classic user and you've used Service Console or Sales Console or any custom consoles, console apps allow you to have a really efficient work environment in your Salesforce because you can have multiple tabs open, you can pin tabs, and you can have sub-tabs that are related to those various records you have open or those various tabs you have open that remain open. So again, I know I keep referring back to, I love Chrome, I'm not trying to hate on Chrome, but you know, a lot of times we end up with maybe like 10 different Chrome tabs open because we're working between a lot of different records. And with console, if you have users, and I would say almost all of our users do this at this point, are working between multiple records or need to go back and forth to different places of the app very often. Obviously, we just saw that like favorites, for example, makes that easier. But with console apps, you can really build that in their Lightning app experience and give them the ability to pin tabs, to have multiple tabs open, and to not, you know, lose their spot with where they're working. But even if you have used classic console apps have, and all Lightning apps have a whole new ability for admins, which is the utility bar.
Utility bar is so cool.
Yeah, the utility bar is really cool. We're going to see a demo of it. But utility bar is component driven. So the utility bar allows you to select, we recommend no more than 10, but select a number of docked components that live at the bottom of your app. So they're app specific. When you build a utility bar, it's specific to your Lightning app. And that's so either your console app or your regular Lightning app, that's regular navigation that we just saw. And you can select various components that you want to be available to all the users of that app. So think somewhere between global actions and record-specific actions, it's app-specific components. So there may be some, and we'll see this, there may be some that you add to all of your various apps. You know, Chatter Publisher might be one that you want available everywhere in the utility bar. But also, you may have some customized standard components, or you may be working with your developer or on the App Exchange to get some custom components that are really specific to a certain business use case, and those would live in the utility bar for that app.
And that's when you work with our amazing developer partners like Christoph.
Exactly, yeah, it's a great time to work with your developer, and this is, again, you know, as developers, this is really exciting because it's different ways for them to, you know, different implications for the types of apps or components they might want to build and provide to their admins if they're, you know, working kind of on a development team with administrators and developers. So it's pretty fun. Now we also have Path, and Path is available now on your custom components. So that path is that visual kind of status bar that we saw on the opportunity, similar to Kanban. It started with opportunities and managing that sales cycle, but we know that our customers are building and managing stages and cycles and steps for a lot of different projects, not just opportunities, right? We've got a lot of different types that are not exclusively working in opportunities on a sales cycle. So now you can give them that visual representation as an admin by creating a path for that object and then surfacing on the page. Flow components. So
okay, flow components are, I mean, I keep talking about all of my favorite things, but flow components to me were mind-blowing because it really, as an admin who is totally terrified of flow, it made flow seem more approachable.
Exactly. I think it makes it, and we'll see how easy it is to surface it, but I think that when in the past, when I used to create visual workflow, when I was an admin, you go through the steps of deciding how are you going to make that visible to your users, if you have to pop out a different screen, and a button, or a link, or use Visualforce. And now, everywhere you can use a standard component, you can use a visual workflow. So whether that's on a record page, or a utility bar maybe, or on the home page, and it really removes one of the barrier entries with Flow. So Flow was kind of intimidating before, and you didn't know how to make it visible to your users, or you didn't want to mess around with creating buttons and things like that.
Now all you have to do is drag the component onto where you want it to be, and then you have your visual workflow right there.
And as you're creating these pages, like with Path, or with Flow, or with any other standard custom components, because our record pages are all component driven, we have new control as administrators in Spring with how we assign those pages. So we can assign them by app, which is really exciting. We assign them by profile. We can create a page and make it the org default. So again, for those developers that are joining with our developer groups as well today, this is an opportunity to also think about, there's all these different ways to control visibility, to determine access, to decide where these various components are shown to users. So it allows you to get more creative with, or kind of be inspired by the different types of components you can build.
Yeah, it really enables you as an admin to really customize each individual group of users that experience, right? So Leanne, this is an amazing overview, but as we all know, our favorite part is the demo.
We want a demo.
Show us all the things.
It's definitely the most fun part. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So we're back in our App Stores Adventures app, and so I just want to make sure I'm making this clear. So we're in a Lightning app right now, and this Lightning app has that standard navigation, and because it's a Lightning app, it's available here in my Lightning app launcher along with all of my tabs. But and we've got the standard navigation across the top, or we would be in one tab at a time. But what we want to do is now we want to actually create a brand new app. So let me go ahead and go to my...
The internet hamsters are working hard this morning.
I know, I have been having a little bit of Wi-Fi trouble this morning. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to Setup.
Now another quick thing that I want to point out, we now notice that when you click Setup, it actually opens up another tab, which is pretty useful for admins because I don't know if anyone noticed that nuance, but previously when you set up, it actually, it takes you to setup in that page. But now you can click back to that other tab and be exactly where you were in the app.
Well, another fun Easter egg for admins is search within setup.
What?
So if you are searching, this is just I intend to show this part, but if you are in the setup screen, we said that search was getting smarter for your end users, but for admins also, if I search, adventures within setup, it's going to search across all of the various kind of metadata items that I have.
So you can see your perm sets, your objects, your fields. Okay, that is really cool.
This is one of my favorite. I use that a lot. It saves a lot of time for me. If I know that I'm looking for like a validation rule or something like that, instead of having to click through setup tree or look for things that way.
Yeah. That's amazing. Huge win for admins.
So we are in Lightning Setup, so I'm going to go to my App Manager, and this is where all of your apps live in Lightning. And so just to kind of give you a little bit of orientation here as well, I can see all of my apps, including classic apps that are not visible in Lightning. So this is really kind of the home base for every single app. I've got my Lightning apps, I've got my classic apps that are visible in Lightning, but we're going to create a brand new Lightning app because we're going to create a console.
So you cannot convert an existing Lightning app into a console app, right? You have to create a new one.
Yes.
Okay.
So we can go ahead and we can set our branding here. That's great. Go ahead and click next. So when we have, let me reload my page. I might be having some browser issues. So when we are creating our app, we do have the option to select what the navigation will be. So let's try that once more.
Here we go. And again, we're creating that console app that you mentioned to allow users to work in context so that they can have tabs open within Salesforce, just having tabs open in the browser.
Exactly. So, and again, this is something that you set this, and this is one of the things you can't edit later in your app. So that's why we're creating this instead of just editing a previous app. So we created this as a Lightning Console app. You probably noticed that it is in beta. It's beta in Spring. Now I have my utility bar. So utility bar, again, is that docked footer that gives us, and it's app specific, which is why we're creating it here in the app. And as I mentioned, there might be some items in the utility bar that you add everywhere, like Chatter Publisher. So I might want to call this post to Chatter. Maybe I want to give it a nice icon, like the feed icon, and update it there. And I can define, what it looks like, what the width and height is. Great. So we've added that. Let's also add our flow component. This is something that's going to be specific to this app, right? I mean, I could add this everywhere if I wanted, but I'm going to say find an adventure. And when I scroll down, I can define the properties here. So one thing with standard components is standard components are existing components that are core to Salesforce, but you as an admin or developer have a lot of ability to customize those components and decide what's going to be displayed. And so it's a report chart component or it's a flow component. They are going to look. You can use them differently. They're kind of container. You can use it differently throughout.
And you define what it points to. So you would define the flow that it points to or the report chart it points to.
Exactly. So here, because this is a flow component that I'm adding to my Adventure console, I'm going to use my Adventure recommendation flow. And also, fun to point out, we now have the ability to say in flow, anytime we're using Lightning Runtime Flow, we can say, do I want to have it display as one column or two column? Now, because this is in the utility bar, I'm going to keep it one column to really maximize that real estate. But if I was adding it to the wide panel on my homepage, for example, I'd probably do two columns.
And that's really cool because if you've got a lot of fields in your flow, it enables you to display all of that in one page without having to scroll.
Exactly. And so I'm going to add notes as well because notes is a Lightning feature that my users are using quite a bit. So I've got my 3 utility bar items. But again, I've been looking at all of these standard items that I can add, so things like filter lists, recent items, specific report charts. But I also can add, if I wanted to, I could also add, custom components that we've created in-house, or also custom component exchange. So I know, Christoph, you've been working a lot with utility bar items. This is pretty exciting. It's a new way for developers to make components available to their users and to their admins.
Yeah, totally. And in fact, it's not only just another place to deploy these components, but it's really an opportunity to create a new type of components, maybe that will provide navigation inside the app. So it's really exciting for developers as well.
Yeah, it's really great. It's so many opportunities now to customize this end user experience because really the whole point is making our end users more productive, right? So now it's really kind of a new way to partner between the admin and the developer to really create awesome stuff for our end users.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's component driven, which is so fun.
Components for all the things.
So now if you've created an app in Classic, this part will feel a little bit familiar to you. We're going to add all of the tabs that we want to have access to. Of course, we need Chatter. Let's get our great homepage in there. We can add some Lightning-only tabs like Notes and Calendar. So we've added all of these great tabs. There we go, and dashboards.
So yeah, this is pretty much exactly like how you do in Classic, selecting which tabs are visible within that app.
However, there are some tabs that are available here that are not available in Classic, namely Calendar to make those great visual calendars, to calendar any object, and then also Notes. And if you've created any Lightning app pages, that is going to be, those will be available there as well. So also we've got our assigned profiles. We're going to assign this for next to our sysadmin. Maybe we'll give it to our standard users also. So we've created our app. Awesome. It's going to now be available there. But we can also go ahead and find it in our app launcher. So I'm going to move it up to the front because I like it.
So that's another cool thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is that you can reorganize your tiles in your app launcher, and it's a huge time saver, and your users can really customize again. They can put their favorite tiles at the top to make it easy for them to access.
And you can also search within an app launcher. So if you are trying to find maybe a specific tab, for example, that's not included in your app, and your users want to know where to find that tab, you can always search within as well. So I can see all of the apps that start to have that name in it, and then as well as all the tabs that have that name as well.
So I think what I'm learning, Leanne, is when in doubt, use the search bar, because it's now really powerful and can help you find all the things.
Search all the things. So now I'm in my brand new console. So the first thing I want to highlight is my new utility bar. So it's down here at the bottom, and I can see I've got my post to chatter, and I've got that chatter update there. I can toggle through notes if I have notes to look at, but also my brand new flow component now exists here. So I can start to click through. I've got this wizard. It's a visual workflow that I created to help people find the right adventure, and I can start to look at, what would be the right budget, what region am I looking for, maybe, and I'm using, actually, this is not GA today, Safe Harbor, but I'm using my dynamic fields. So that means that when I select North America, I can then select a sub-region within North America as well. So just if you want to see what that looks like, it's not available, available. So that's, again, trying to make it easier for my end users to kind of find the right information. So I go through, I make my selections, and then I can see maybe a list of recommendations that meet that criteria. So that's just another way if you're creating visual workflows. And any visual workflow that has a start screen, that has a screen and that has been defined as a start and is activated, will be available to play with this.
And I think that's so cool, because what you've done is you've made that visual workflow available to all users where they are in the app by putting it in the utility bar.
Exactly. So it's really app-specific experience. And now as I navigate around my items here, I can see I'm in my calendar.
And this is where we're seeing that console app in action by opening up the tabs within Salesforce without actually changing anything in the browser.
Exactly. So if I go into maybe my Mount Rainier Summit record and I start to open up, different records within it, like maybe the instructor information and maybe some of the booking information, all of that lives under that tab, and so I can still go back and check out chatter, I can play on my calendar, and I can be toggling between all of these different tabs while not losing kind of where I am with work here. Now we're almost done customizing this page, but this is a great adventure page. I feel like it's got a lot of information, but I want to make it a little bit more useful for people who are working with a large volume of adventures, and specifically our adventure managers. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to Edit Page, because when I'm delivering this customized experience with the console app, I want to make sure the entire experience is customized, specific to how they need to use Salesforce. So this is our Lightning App Builder for my record page. So the center here is my canvas. So this is where I can see the preview of what I'm looking at and what my page is looking like as I build it. And it's pretty handy. It gives me a preview of the data I'd be looking at as well. So it makes it a little bit easier to kind of visualize and guide me.
WYSIWYG in action.
Now on the left, I have all of my standard components, and then I have my custom components and my custom components that are managed from the App Exchange. So I'm going to go ahead and make some changes to this page with standard components, because by default your pages are driven on standard components, and you can make all of the changes with those. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make some changes to the tabs. I feel like I want some more information here, and I want to bubble up the right information in the right place. So, for example, I have a couple related lists here, but I actually want to make sure that front and center is the instructor booking and the instructor information, so that people can really quickly get to that information. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm clicking on the tab. I'm going to say Add Tab, and I can name this tab anything I want. So we're going to call it Instructors. So I've got my Instructor tab. Now, previously, my related lists are all grouped together. They come from the page layout. I've got my related list on the right here. I can always see kind of which component I'm looking at, what the details are for that component. But now in Spring, one of the things I can do is if I want, I can break up my related list with a brand new component, standard component called Related List.
So there's no S on that one.
Yeah, so imagine you're looking at an object that has, like on accounts, for example, we've got like 10 different related lists. So now you can break it out and assign, based on what page or who's looking at this page, what's the most important for them to see. And I can select what should this be. Okay, I want it to be instructors, and I can kind of have that available there. I also want to add a little bit more analytics details. So I'm going to go ahead and add another custom tab and call it analytics. And notice when I add a tab, it is a blank space, right? I'm adding this tab and I'm creating a place to put something, but there's nothing in it yet. So I'm going to drag the report chart component on here, and I've got my adventures by activity and level, and so I've got my nice scatter chart that I built with Lightning Report Builder here, and I could, define it by a specific adventure if I wanted to, or and show me kind of where are we with this, like how hard is it, how many registrants are there, or I could just have it be a global chart and make those changes. You can also have the refresh button. I always like to include that. So that's how I've customized this page. And I can, always say maybe I want to default to the analytics, so I can get a visual there. Awesome. So I feel like I've customized this page a little bit. Now I want to add my path. So I've created a path in Lightning Setup path for adventure planning, and I want to make that visible here for all of my users that are doing this. So since I've created the path, it's available with this standard component path. And if I had multiple record types here, you can have one path per object per record type, or per record type per object. So if I had 5 record types for adventures, then I would have potentially 5 paths. And I've defined what pick list field it should look at and all of that. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And when I activate this page, I decide who sees it and when. So I could assign it as an org default. I could say everybody should see this page always whenever they're looking at a adventure, but I really want to assign this as my app default because this is something that I want my Adventure Console users to see. So I'm going to assign it as my app default and click Save. Now when I click back and I'm still in that console app, I can see
look at that.
that visual of, if I want to update stages from the path, I can see my chart, my kind of interactive chart here, my details, my instructors. So that whole page experience has been updated. But if I go back to my original Astro's Adventures app,
the non-console app,
and I go to that same record, that record remains unchanged.
So that's really a good way to display, what it means to set the layout default, the record page default per app, because we've set it for default for your console app, but not for the Astro's Adventures regular Lightning app.
Right, and I think that it's meaningful. A lot of us have users that are cross-functional across different parts of the business, or they're doing a lot of different. You might have users that are. Sometimes they're doing project management, and sometimes they need to go into the customer service console, or sometimes they need to engage in a contract, engagement or contract management app. And so now, instead of really having to kind of define, okay, you have this profile, and so you are always a project manager. Now, if you look at combining, permission sets and apps that are really customized with utility bar and customized pages for that app, you're able to give your users the ability to kind of go across different functional areas but have a really optimized experience for what it means to be managing a project that week.
Yeah, that was amazing, Leanne. There's so much there that are incredible tools for admins for us to use with Spring17. But it's not all about admins. We want to kind of extend that. We talked a little bit about custom components and all these amazing things we can do beyond just doing the point and click. So let's hear a little bit more about that. Christoph, can you tell us a little bit more about what's available with development in Spring17?
Yes, sure. So there are a lot of things that are available, and this is really my short list of my favorite features. The first thing that I'd like to talk about is the work that we did with the base Lightning components. So you'll find new components, you'll find improved components, and I'm going to show that in a second. Then another focus was really around performance. We really want to make your applications fast, your components fast. So we have that new thing in Spring17 that we call unbound expressions, and that's simply a fancy way to say one-way data binding. We'll speak about that in a second. Then we improved Lightning Out in Spring 17, and we make it possible to deploy your applications to, or your components to public websites without the need to authenticate. And then kind of the other way around, if you have existing code that's built with another framework, let's say React or Angular, we have a new component that we call the Lightning Container component that lets you bring that application or that component inside the Lightning experience. We make it easy to customize the look and feel, theme of your application with token overrides. And finally, we want you to build smart applications with Einstein. And what I'd like to show you today is an example of that using Einstein Vision. But again, it's super cool on a slide, but it's even better in a demo. So I'm gonna
let's see the demo, Christoph.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna share my screen here, and so I'm back in the same type of org that Leanne showed you before. And the first thing that I want to focus on is the utility bar. And Leanne showed you a lot of examples with standard components. But of course, you can deploy or host custom components in the utility bar as well. And I remember the first time I saw the utility bar, I knew that I wanted to see some kind of a bot component or a chatbot component in there. Now, if you have never worked with a bot or a chatbot, it's simply a new way to access information inside your app. So basically what you do, you use language or natural language to access data in your application, maybe instead of going through multiple steps in a menu. So let me give you a simple example here. So for instance, say that I want to look at my 3 top leads. So I would simply use plain English here to say I want to see my 3 top leads. And so I get the list here, and as I said before, you can even quickly kind of navigate to these different leads. Now, at Camp Astro, we offer camps and courses for kids. So, I know that there is a drone flying class that's being offered, but I don't remember exactly when it's being offered. Again, I'd like to access that information very quickly without leaving my main task here. So I'm going to simply say when course drone, for instance. So it doesn't have to be, a perfect sentence. Hopefully, if the bot is smart, it's gonna understand what you mean. And again, I can quickly navigate to these different records. Now, this component can be conversational as well. So it's not only a question and an answer. So I could say, for instance, well, I need to submit a travel approval request here. So I'm just going to type travel approval, and then I'm going to be asked a couple of questions. So it's more kind of a guided interview style thing. So the bot keep asking me questions. So I'm going to say I'm leaving today, and here is how much it's going to cost, and then it's going to automatically submit that travel approval for me. So these are things that component can do. All these things you really want to have at your fingertips, so the utility bar is the perfect place to host that component. A quick last one that this component can do, it lets me quickly upload files. So for instance, if I had my company logo here that I wanted to quickly upload, boom, drag and drop, it's done, and I can actually quickly look at the file here. Now, you may think that building applications or components like that is complicated, but in fact, with Lightning and Spring 17, we made that really easy. And I wanted to show you a couple of examples. And for instance, we can start with that last feature that I showed you, like upload files. And remember, I was able to drag and drop. And you may wonder, how much code do I have to write to really implement a feature like that? And the answer is really not much, because with the new base components, we really provide that infrastructure for you. So for instance, in that specific case, if I use the Lightning input component with the new file type in Spring17, then all that is taken care of. The drag and drop, the ability to select a file. If I ran that on mobile, I could even take a picture straight from my camera. So all that is provided, and it's really one tag that you have to add to your own component. Now, I told you about that new feature that we call unbound expressions, and so that's the syntax for that is curly hashtag. And you may remember the previous notation, which was curly exclamation mark. And this is still available, but that is bidirectional data binding. Now, if you know that what you're going to display in a specific component, for instance here, lightning icon, or here in a simple paragraph, if you know that this is read-only, that you're never going to go update the model back, then use unbound expression, curly hashtag, because that's one-way data binding. It's going to be a lot more performant simply because we don't have to set up complicated event listeners to capture the changes that you may make. In this case, you say, don't worry, I'm not going to make any changes to my component, and as a result, that component is going to be faster, more performant. So this is how you build components. This is really how you build modern applications. We call that composable apps or application composition. And as a developer, it really makes me a lot more productive. And I wanted to look at another example of that productivity that comes with application composition. Let's say that, for instance, as a developer, I'm being asked to build a new application or a new component, a course finder, some kind of a rich interface that lets users find courses, maybe by location, around them, by name, and then see that location on a map. So that's my new assignment. Now the good news is that I already have something very similar, and it's a lead finder. And so let's take a quick look at that. So this is essentially here a list of my leads, but I can easily look at them, to see where are these leads around me. So these are very close by. And then when I find a lead, I can simply select it, and I can really see it on a map. So very similar to what I want to do. So in the interest of time here, I'm not going to create a brand new page for the course finder. I'm going to turn this lead finder into a course finder. And to do that, I'm simply going to go to App Builder here. And so you see that this page was actually made of 3 components. So the list of leads, filters to filter by distance, and then location, a map to show that lead on a map. So obviously I need a course finder, so I'm going to get rid of the list of leads, and I'm going to replace this with a nice looking list of courses here. And so the benefits and the power of application composition here is that I won't have to change filters, I won't have to change location. These components are independent enough that they can now work on a completely different context, on a completely different object, in this case courses instead of leads. And I think, Leanne, that this is really a great opportunity for admins and developers to work together. If we do, as developers, if we do our job well, and we provide you with components that are that flexible, I think that opens up new opportunities. I don't know what you think about that, if that would be interesting from an admin point of view.
No, I 100% agree. I think that creating these components that can be used for many different business cases, for many different types of users across different objects or different pages, or in different ways, as you've shown. I mean, I think that it's really important for admins and developers to think about that concept of having these really kind of flexible and reusable components, because that means if you're looking at okay, I'm going to spend this development effort, or if you're an admin and you're trying to kind of make a request of your developer, see if they can help you with some components, if we create these components that are more flexible, be used in different ways, then admins can add them in different parts of the app. As we saw earlier, they can have more control over how they're surfaced, so they can get more granular with how the components are used. So no, I think it's really the customizable and the reusable components are hugely cool for admins.
Cool. So let's see if it works. So we're going to save this page here and go back. Remember, I didn't change anything in these other components here. And so I'm going to say, okay, so show me the courses maybe closer to me or a little farther away. So you see that it works. This component here, the list, is pretty cool. You can mouse over, get a popover with additional information. And then when you select a course, automatically you will see the course on a map. So that's really the power of application composition. All these components that are independent yet able to work together. And I don't know about you, but I think this component, the course finder, looks pretty cool. And in some situations, it may actually make sense to expose that component to the world, to make it available, on public websites, because as Camp Astro here, I want everybody to know about the camps and the courses that I offer. So if I can deploy it, let's say, I don't know, on Facebook or public websites, the more the better. I want everybody to know about my courses. So let's see if that's possible. So I'm going to open a new tab here. And so, in fact, what we did for Camp Astro here, we did indeed deploy that component on their Facebook page. As you can see here, I'm inside Facebook. I have the exact same application, so the exact same component. So that's a Lightning component running here inside Facebook, and it works the exact same way. I can select courses around me by distance, by name, things like that. So notice, by the way, here, and that's really the new feature in Spring 17, is that, okay, so this is enabled by Lightning Out, and we had Lightning Out before, but what is new in Spring 17 is that you can deploy components without the need to authenticate. And obviously, you only want to do that for, public data, but in this case, for example, it makes total sense. So let's take a quick look at the code for this. So this is the page that's deployed inside Facebook. And as you can see, it starts the same way. So we have, we import the Lightning Out script, and you still simply instantiate the different components. These are the same components that we were running inside our org, and we inject them in some divs here. So the layout could potentially be completely different. But what you also notice is what's not on this page, and namely, that is anything related to authentication. You see that there is absolutely no code here related to authentication. So it's super easy now to deploy Lightning components on public websites. Now, sometimes it is the other way around. So this was, deploying Lightning components on public websites, but sometimes you already have a component or an application written with another framework. Maybe you wrote it with React or AngularJS, and you want to bring that inside the Lightning experience. So as an example here, I have a simple, fun application. It's kind of a match game, so I'll show you how it works. So I need to match two cards. So let's see if I can actually make that work. All right, I think maybe here. Yes, okay. All right, so this is just for fun, but of course this application is built in React, and it could be any kind of more serious business application that you want to import inside the Lightning experience. So let's see if we can do this. All right, so I'm back inside my org, and I'm going to go on my home page. And let's say, just for fun, that I want to add that game on my home page. You already know how to do that. I'm going to go back to App Builder. I'm going to look at my custom components here, and look, I have a component called Matching Game. Right, so I'm going to add it there, and you recognize automatically this is our matching game. So let's go ahead, save that, hit back, and here is the game on the home page. And nobody knows, ooh, got lucky there, nobody knows, but this is actually a React application running very smoothly here inside the Lightning experience. So how was this done? Let's take a look at the code. So this is the matching game component. Notice that even from an admin or a developer point of view in App Builder, it just looked like any other Lightning component. And here is the Lightning component, matching game. And you see that we have that new component called Lightning container. And the only thing I have to do here is to bring in my application written with React as a static resource, and that's all. But in addition to that, I can also exchange messages between the React application or Angular and other Lightning components around me. So I have that on message thing, so it's not an isolated island on your page if you want. So for example, this game is fun, but if I don't see my score, it's a little less interesting. So I'm just going to quickly go back here, edit the page, and I have another component here that's called matching game score. This one is a pure traditional Lightning component. I'm going to put it here, save, right, and then hit back. And so I'm going to try playing again. And as you can see, of course, the point here is to have the lowest score possible. Every time I try a match, got lucky, here my score increases. So this is just showing that even though this is a component built with another framework, there is no problem to communicate between that and traditional Lightning components around it. So the next topic that I wanted to quickly cover is all about building smart applications and smart components. And you know that that's a really important theme at Salesforce right now with Einstein. And Einstein also provides tools to developers to actually build smart components. So for example, at Camp Astro, we have outdoor camps for kids. They go outside. We ask them to, learn nature and, identify nature elements. So maybe we ask them to recognize, different trees, different leaves, different animals. And to help them, we provided them with an application on their mobile device. They can take a picture, maybe of a leaf, and the application will tell them exactly what that is. So let me first show you that application in the browser. So I have a tab here called Tools. And just to show you how that works, so I'm going to take a picture and drop it here on my input field. And just like before, the image is uploaded to the server. And the difference here is that we submit that to Einstein Vision, and in this case, Einstein Vision is pretty sure this is a badger. Okay. Now, everything we do, when we build Lightning components, it's available in the browser, but it's also available on mobile. So I wanted to show you now the exact same application running on mobile. So this is my phone that I'm streaming here. And I have Einstein Vision, the exact same component. So I'm going to simply select to upload a file here. And I'm going to choose it from my library. And maybe I'm going to choose this here in this case. So again, the image is being uploaded. Then it's going to be submitted to Einstein Vision. Let's try that one more time. All right, here we go. And in this case, it's a little less sure because some of these things look alike, but you see that you can get a pretty good idea of what that is going to be. So very easy to develop these smart components with Einstein Vision. But as developers, you know, we need to be smart as well, and we need to make sure that we don't reinvent the wheel. And before we code anything, we always need to think, is what I'm about to code really something that I need to build custom, or is it possibly already available in the platform? So for example, here, if all you need is a component that lets you upload a picture and get feedback, well, we already have something like that in the platform, and that's called Chatter. In Chatter, of course, you can upload a picture. So let's see if, as developers, we could actually reuse something that's already there and maybe add a little bit of developer magic on top of it to make it smarter. So I'm going to create a new post. And in this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to @mention Einstein Vision. And then I'm going to upload or take a picture. But in this case, I'm not outdoors, so I'm going to just take a picture, and I'm going to take this one this time. And I'm going to submit it. So I'm attaching a picture, I @mention Einstein Vision, and I submit that picture. And so this is just pure Chatter at this point. I will refresh it here to actually see the picture here. I'm going to do that one more time. And look, notice that there is already a comment to that post. So let's click that and see what happens. So Einstein Vision here replied to my post telling me, I'm pretty sure that thing is a red fox. All right, so here is an example where we really looked at the platform and said, hey, before we build something custom, let's see if we can use something that existed. We found Chatter that really can do a good job at doing that. But you know what? That's not the only thing that we reused. To orchestrate that whole process, we also reused Process Builder. So let me quickly show you the process that's kind of orchestrating that whole thing. So we are watching the feed item object. Every time there is a new record being posted, we check if that post mentions Einstein Vision. So we see in the body if there is a mention of @Einstein Vision. If there is, then we make a call out to the Vision service. So this is where we call an Apex class. So this is the little developer magic that we add on top of Chatter to make it do things that you never knew were possible inside Chatter. So that's a good example as developers of leveraging the platform and adding to the platform. And that's really what I wanted to quickly show you here. So to quickly summarize, we have the base Lightning components, new and improved. We have new ways to do data binding with, data binding, one-way data binding, which are going to make your applications faster, more performant, and then new ways to expose Lightning components on public websites without the need to authenticate. A new component, the Lightning Container component, to bring components built with third-party frameworks inside the Lightning experience, and then a way to build smart components using Einstein Vision. Einstein Vision is available. You can sign up now. There is actually even a Trailhead module to learn and get started with Einstein Vision. So that's really exciting. Jillian, back to you.
Christophe, I love that demo, and I think you're probably one of my favorite developers to work with, especially not only because you build really cool and beautiful components, but also you've always been a big proponent of using core functionality or declarative functionality where it exists, and really kind of integrating the things that you build with the platform and with Process Builder and Utility Bar and things that exist within the core declarative platform. So great demo, thank you.
No, yeah, absolutely.
I feel like the non-developer in me learned a lot by watching your presentation, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And as a developer, I think it's always super important to learn what's available in the platform so that you don't reinvent the wheel.
Absolutely. And I think even, it's always been important, like the history of kind of Salesforce, that's always been important with Salesforce development. But I think, when we look at components now also, not only what are the standard components that are available and what do they look like, what's the functionality that's available, but also what we learned today is some of the changes and increased customization ability over where do they live in Salesforce.
Yeah, and so developers can now find incredibly new ways to deliver those and really open kind of some new ideas about what to create. So thank you, both of you, for joining us today and presenting and sharing your favorite Spring 17 resources. I want to especially remind every admin, every developer, every end user that there are a ton of resources available to help you prepare for Spring 17, and actually not even prepare, it's already in your org. So you should go in there and check it out at salesforce.com/customer-resources/releases Spring 17. Definitely go check it out. There are tons of videos and trainings and Trailhead modules. There are all the things right there ready for you to help you be amazing and awesome in your job. And we also want to remind you to connect with us. So success.salesforce.com is where you can find the success community. You can connect with product managers, with evangelists like Christoph and Leanne, and you can connect with other customers who are also using all of these products in new ways. Ask your questions. Everyone's there to help. And don't forget, there's Trailhead for everything. So there's a special new Spring 17 badge that you can earn that will highlight some of these features that we highlighted today and make sure that you know how to use them. And please, always remember, connect with us on social. So at Twitter, we're at Salesforce Admins Know Why and at Salesforce Devs. Ask your questions, let us know how you're doing, and use that hashtag, Spring It On. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us. Thank you, Leanne. Thank you, Christoph. And here's to being awesome in Spring 17.